Good evening, everyone. Well, it's nighttime where I'm at anyway. Welcome back to a new video. So first things first, you'll notice that this is not a Monday video, but a Tuesday video. And it's not a character video, it is a speed paint. Traditional speed paint. Watercolors even. But before I get into the picture, let me explain what's going on. So I have decided that I will no longer do Monday videos. They are terribly difficult for me to do and get done, mostly because they would have to be done Thursday and Friday, which is not really a big deal, but Friday is sort of one of those days where I absolutely have no idea what's going to happen, and it just becomes a debacle. So, no more Monday videos. Except we're going to focus on Tuesday. Um, and I'm going to get rid of the restriction that is me drawing my characters all the time. Not that I can't draw them, I still need to draw them occasionally, but I am going to try to do other things, like different challenges, prompts anyone may have, so on and so forth. Friday will still be here. That will encompass a lot more things like art and chat. Definitely going to be doing a sketchbook tour soon because I'm almost done with mine. And yeah, I'm looking to do more art supply reviews and maybe some first impression videos, stuff like that. And then for the weekend videos, they will be more of a sketchbook Sunday video. I'm looking forward to doing that. This is basically just going to be what I do in my sketchbook. This will include anything from figure drawing to, I don't want to say full illustrations, but what could basically be considered a full illustration in my sketchbook, because occasionally I will do those. I mean, paint markers, color pencil, whatever I feel like. So that's what's going to happen. Hopefully it's a little more concrete. It's fairly spread out and shouldn't be too hard to keep up with. It means I really have to be mindful of the Friday videos because Friday is a weird day for me to do anything because I never know what's going to happen. I can either be at home all day, but that means I'm spending time with my mom, or I'm out and about all day, which means I get nothing done. So, let's get into the painting. I had a lot of fun with this, but it was kind of stressful. I've never done watercolor on this large a scale before. I've done watercolor in my sketchbook, but nothing. This is like 9 by 12. Yeah, this was intimidating. And it was looking really ugly for a minute there. I wanted to do strictly watercolor, but that didn't end up happening. But here I am just sort of like blocking in bits and pieces. I had a reference photo of like a grotto that I was using, but the end result for this looks more like the beginnings of a cave and less like a grotto, which I don't really mind that much. It turned out pretty cool in the end. But I think what I should have done was probably done the grays instead of that blue wash that I did in the beginning. That was probably my downfall. Although the reason I had done it is because I wanted to give everything a sort of blue tint, but trying to paint over said blue tint is a lot easier said than done. So I had a lot of mishaps with recording this. One big mishap. I've recently found 4 more rechargeable batteries for my camera, which is great for me. But of course, the batteries that were in my camera had died, I think, after the second or third recording, which is not really that big a deal. I expected them to die. And I had charged the other ones, but for some reason, they did not want to work at all. It was so bad that the lens didn't even go back in. And I had tried to, use some of the other batteries to see if maybe they would work just enough for it to close down, and that didn't work. And then somehow I misplaced 4 batteries and had 4 dead batteries. So I charged the batteries overnight, and then subsequently found the other batteries, which I don't even remember where I found them at. They were nearby, thankfully, but I don't remember where I had put them or where I had found them. But Yeah, it was pretty stressful. I have new lighting, if you hadn't noticed. So I did know natural lighting because at this point in the day, it was daylight, and I had the window open, but I bought a new OT light, which is amazing, and then I bought an OT light bulb for the desk lamp that I had. So I love these lights, and if I can get some more space to work on, I would probably buy a third light. But I'm not going to do that right now. I think I'm pretty content with what I have. Mm, um, Regarding the mermaid herself, I actually liked painting her. Here I'm doing a sort of, I don't want to say blocking in, because that's not the term I'm looking for. I'm trying to add light because there was supposed to be sort of some sunlight coming in, and I wanted to add that to her and the rock she was sitting on, and it's basically the only part that's lit up. And then I got to painting the skin, and that was my other debacle. And oh boy, I for a minute I actually had to go take a rest and not look at this because I was really, really, really upset. I walked away for like an hour because yeah, I was not happy. I was getting a headache, and I was just like, oh no, what do I do? Because watercolor is sort of it's not a foreign medium, but it's not something I work with enough to know how to do that well. So in terms of painting the skin, I was having a lot of trouble uh, getting the color I wanted. Um, I didn't have trouble mixing a color, but I didn't get the color I wanted. And ultimately, I think I should have gone with just a singular pigment instead of trying to uh, mix a pigment and make it darker. I think that would have worked to my benefit. I'm sorry I didn't do any zoomed in shots. I was really concentrating. Also, the original pen I had sketched this in, which is a Hi-tec C, doesn't really like watercolor. I learned that the hard way because it kind of bled. The bleeding wasn't too terrible in my personal opinion, but that's mostly because the lines are so thin. But it wasn't terrible that I was going to freak out too much about it. I could easily just fix the mistakes that I had made just by going over it. And even looking at this now, looking at that terrible color, I'm sort of still just like internally screaming. The mermaid tail wasn't that bad though. I actually had fun painting it. I like the color. She's supposed to be sort of a golden mermaid, but I didn't want to just make it a flat out gold. I think that would have been too overwhelming for the piece. Um, but I could have done probably some better color layers, better glazing. I think that's the term I'm looking for. That would have definitely worked better working on this piece. Um, but overall, I really had fun doing her tail, and I think where I found my calm is when I decided to nix the idea that this was going to be all watercolor. I wasn't going to use my brush pen at all. Originally, I had really wanted to try to get sort of everything looking right with just the watercolor. And I had to concede that it wasn't going to work. So I got out my brush pen, my Cartoonist, and everything just started coming together. And I think part of it was because I could define the shapes now, and it wasn't just such an eyesore to look at. They had something to sort of set them apart from one another. Otherwise, it just looks like a big blotchy patch of gray, or patches of gray, I should say, all over the paper. And I ended up using it for her as well, which is weird because when I was using my brush pen sometime within the last week or so, I was trying to redraw a character I had done during Inktober, and it turned out terrible, like absolutely terrible. And I was really frustrated, and I just kept staring at the paper like I thought I had gotten a handle on my brush pen, and I didn't. But when I was doing this, it wasn't the most controlled it could have been, but it was a lot better in terms of the control I had. I could get the thinner lines where I wanted my thinner lines. My lines weren't overly thick because that was a big tendency for me, and I think part of that is because I had been working so small. Even though this is by no means large in terms of the figure on the page, but the lines that I did get were small enough. I did use a Micron in some places. A .3 uh, worked out pretty well for me. So I'm happy I had some Microns on hand. I also have to say I really don't like cold press paper. This is a Strathmore paper. I think it's the 300 series from the watercolor paper. I don't like it that much at all. It's there's too much texture for my personal liking. In the end result, you don't really see it. Like, even looking at it now in front of me, I can't really see it. But when I was painting and then starting to layer on my color pencil, I could see the texture, and it was absolutely maddening. And I'm going to invest in some hot press paper. I don't really like a whole lot of tooth to my paper, because even though the mixed media pad has tooth to it, it's not so bad that, I can't, just, I can get what I'm looking for without having to deal with, too much texture. But this was just, oh, it was a nightmare when I hit with the colored pencil, so never again. I'm also glad I didn't resort to my markers. Don't get me wrong, I love my Copic markers, but I've heard that watercolor paper sort of absorbs a lot of marker, and I didn't want to risk that because I don't have refills for anything at this particular point in time. So, yeah. And here I am with my brush pen. I feel so much better even looking at it now because I can see where everything is. And I sort of did some impromptu stuff because when I did the original sketch, there was no, like, real defined background. There were just basic shapes that I had referenced from my reference photo, which was a picture on Pinterest. And I was just like, okay, so what else do I do with this now? Uh, so I tried to make it look like there was a narrow pathway that could be walked on. And the right hand side, I had put another pathway. Then I tried to use perspective to make it look like you could go back further. But I think the brush pen really lended itself well in this instance, because this is a cave, essentially. These are rock formations, and the lines didn't have to be perfect, which I think works well for me. Adding some jelly roll for some highlight. I know a lot of people say you should use the white of the paper. For some reason, my mind said not to do that this time around. I have done it before in my sketch pad, though. So, any of you sort of, I don't want to say elitist, but, persnickety folk about that. Yeah, I don't do this a lot. I don't watercolor a lot. I do try to use the white as a paper when I think it's necessary, but for this particular picture, that didn't happen. I also got to use my Winsor Newton gold ink. First of all, that thing needs a lot of shaking to actually get the pigment up and off the bottom of the water, off the bottom of the bottle. But watching it is kind of mesmerizing. It's just pretty to watch. And it always looks like it's moving. Even the little bit that had somehow got on the very top of the jar, like around the rim, it looked like it was moving. And I was just like, oh, this is pretty. I could watch this all day. But that's not what I'm here for, because I would get stuck watching that all day. But, yeah, we're coming up on a close. I want to thank you guys for, watching my videos. If you're new here, I'd greatly appreciate it if you could like and maybe subscribe to this video. Maybe share it with your friends. I am looking forward to maybe doing this piece again in the future, maybe on a larger paper even, and possibly on some hot press paper. despite the hardship I had with it, I enjoy the final product, and this was kind of a learning curve for me, and that just means I still have a lot more to learn, obviously, but I'm looking forward to that learning process and, you know, wrapping my hands around it. Like I said, in the future, there will be more types of videos. So if you guys have a prompt you would like to see or a challenge you would like to see me do, go ahead and leave that in the comments. And I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.